Frolic Hawai'i and Queenie LaForga, Queenie's Food Journey. And it'll be moderated by an award-winning journalist and dear friend of FFM's, Jennifer Ferguson. The fourth breakout session is going to be a chat on business.
Do you have any kind of presentation or anything, or no? You're good.
I actually have one, but still thinking of whether to show it or not. Am I the only one going to show a PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, do you know how you're supposed to be able to share
kind of hop around
presentation?
Hold
on a second. Is that your?
Yep, sorry, that's mine.
No problem.
I just have to mute this.
Are you in LA?
Yep. I'll try to.
Hi, Peter. I can't.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, hello everyone.
Hey. Aloha, guys.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Awesome. All right.
Hey guys, let me see if we can get the screen share function. Michael, you have a presentation?
I don't know. Any of you guys have a presentation you guys need to share? Like Joel, Peter. I know Eric said he might have one. Eric, are you going to share that or no?
Well, if no one else is sharing one, then I'd rather not. Although I have one prepared.
Peter,
would this be moderating session?
No, I don't have a presentation.
I have about 4 slides on a PDF file.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I know how to get these guys to screen share. If there's like
cool. So if on the bottom, next to your camera and mute function, there should be a screen share. Although for me it is X'd out. So let me
mine's
go
X'd out. Mine's X'd
out.
out.
Let me go ask them to enable it in this session. Give me 1 second.
Okay, thank you.
Good, I see it.
Hey, Sonia. Hey, Al, how you doing, man?
Hey, Michael.
Okay, sorry for anyone watching this right now. We're just going through a little technical thing. Let's see. Okay, you guys can see your share screens, right? Guys, speakers? Okay, good. Okay, well, aloha everybody, and welcome to our session today. I really appreciate you guys coming in. My name is Michael Ang. I am one of the board members of the Filipino Food Movement. My agency is based out here in New York City, so I'm in the super cold part of the world right now. We got about, I think, 3 or 4 feet of snow last week. It was crazy, but I'm so happy that everyone in the warmer climates can join us here. So I would like to introduce our guests for today. First, we have Mr. Peter Oshiro, who is the Environmental Health Program Manager, Food Safety Branch at the Department of Health. He has been with the Department of Health since 1988. and he has been the environmental health program manager of the food safety branch for the past 12 years. We also have with us today Chef Joel Navasca, who is the chef and owner of Tiano's restaurant in Hawaii. Joel has 20 years of experience working in the industry before he started his own restaurant in 2010. This restaurant is a fusion Asian restaurant that serves Filipino food as well as some other things from local and American and Hawaiian flavors. He also runs a successful water purification business on the island, as well as giving back to the community with his Treasure Box Dance Studios, which provides leadership development to underserved youth in the community through hip hop dance, which we all love as Filipinos. So also I would like to introduce Mr. Eric Elnar, who is the Trade Commissioner of the Philippine Trade and Investment Center, which promotes exports from the Philippines and facilitates investments from the United States. So quite a diverse group of speakers here today, and I'm so glad to have you join us. The subject of our session today is starting and sustaining food business throughout a pandemic. As a small business owner myself, I definitely have felt a lot of that here, especially here in the New York City food environment. A lot of entrepreneurs that have opened their own businesses have had difficulty staying alive, keeping their businesses going. I'm sure it's really something that everybody feels on a global level. So, my first question to each of you is, what has your experience been like over the last year? Any one of you want to take it?
Okay. Oh, go ahead, Peter.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Well, again, it's been very interesting from a regulatory standpoint. When businesses shut down, that's a really, really difficult thing to watch happen in front of us. Our program is about 50% funded by restaurant permit fees. So it is really critical. And we've always taken the position that our job is to help businesses comply with through education. So we enforce all our rules and everything through the education process. We don't want to just hammer people on the head and tell them you have to do this and you have to do that. The business has to understand why they need to do this. And it also has to be done in a manner where we're not putting any financial burden on the industry itself. So one of the biggest examples is when we shut down in, I think it was March, April, when we totally shut down, there was a stay-at-home order for everybody. We managed to introduce a virtual inspection system. So we opened up literally 15 food establishments, including 2 very large chains, during the time when everyone was shut by instituting a virtual inspection program. This doesn't work for routine inspections, but for an opening, for a pre-op inspection, for those restaurants that have gone through the process. Your first inspection with the health department is a dead inspection. You're not allowed to open and have customers in the place. So it's more like an equipment check. Make sure you guys know what you're doing. Make sure all your equipment is working. We go with your menu, go through your menu with you. So when we did these virtual inspections, both of us have some kind of an iPhone or a camera, and we instruct the restaurant to go through it. Show me this, show me that, show me how you sanitize, show me how your dishwasher works, show me how you know how to take temperatures of your food and all these kind of things. And all that can be done virtually without actually being there. And you were just going over with their knowledge.
Peter, I think your microphone cut out. You're muted.
We just didn't tell the public that we're closed for business because everything is shut down. So we tried to find a way to keep businesses viable and to open up businesses while the rest of the world is shut down in preparation for when the lockdown is over. So yeah, that's very interesting, different things I've never encountered before.
Great. Joel, what has your experience been like over the last year?
Well, certainly it's been a very interesting one, and it's a humbling experience because prior to the lockdown, we're full force expansion, we're actually scaling up. We've started with a food truck here in Waipahu, and then we've grown to 5 locations in a short period of time. So before the lockdown, we were planning to expand more locations. But as we all know that when the government tells you can't run your business because of the restrictions, then we were forced to scale back. And thankfully, we have a very good group of people that we can train and adapt to the new environment. And I think really that was the key for us to I think what had been very useful for us was we have good group of people that willing to relearn all the necessary things that we have to do to adapt to the new environment and to sustain the operation. And although we scaled back into one brick and mortar restaurant, but we actually pivoted into expansion on the food truck in preparation for the reopening. So certainly it's been an interesting past year, but nevertheless, we gain a lot of experience through it. So I really feel I feel empowered that if we can survive into this kind of environment, we can do anything after this. So I'm very excited to what's coming up, with the vaccination that's occurring right now. And I know that everybody, our customer base are anxious, and everybody like me, I want to go out. So I'm just preparing to reopen again, and we have a sense of normalcy.
Now were the restaurants closed, for a significant period of time out there, and then opened again for like limited indoor dining and only outdoor dining, or how was it in Honolulu? Because I know it was here in New York, they shut everything down for a while and then opened it and then shut it down again and then opened it up again at 25% capacity. So it's been a whirlwind, very much a roller coaster out here. So I'm curious, was it the same way out in Hawaii?
Go ahead, Joe. No, go ahead, Joe.
Well, for us, I believe we were shut down roughly about mid-March, the first one. And we were able to manage, when I say shutdown, was partial. They allowed us to do takeouts, and then eventually, like a little bit over a month later, they allowed us to do some inside dining. But that really had hampered our efforts to make some adjustment, because we're like shock and awe, right? It's like, oh, what are we gonna do? There's so much uncertainty at that time. But then, of course, it happened again. I believe it was in July, and that kind of icing the cake, so to say, in so many of our friends in the industry, because so many of them did not make it after the second one. And then we reopened back partial in dining again, I believe, in September. So I could be wrong on the dates, but roughly about that time. Yeah. So right now we're doing 35% to 50% occupancy. Yeah.
Wow, that's definitely it's definitely good that it's starting to bounce back a little bit. At least 50% occupancy is better than it is out here.
Yeah, what Joel said was correct, and it was really hard to watch these businesses because, like he was saying, you got sit-down restaurants that were just booming in Honolulu. So many new people were coming in, stepping up the culinary, I guess, environment in Hawaii. And then when this thing went down, if you were not fortunate enough to be takeout only, so if you were always set to be takeout only, those businesses really didn't skip a beat at all because they were never shut down at all. All the markets, the supermarkets, the Costco's, no, they never had to shut down. So the only people that really got wiped out were the bars and the sit-down restaurants. If that was your main, then if you didn't pivot like Joe did really quickly, you had a real hard time surviving, and a lot of people just didn't make it. So yeah, it was really hard to see that.
If I could also share our experience here in LA.
Yes.
Yeah, Mike. Well, first for the government part, Philippine government part, well, the Philippine government is not known to be flexible or to pivot quickly, right? But in terms of our offices here in the US, I think we were one of the first regions that pivoted towards more online work. As you can see now, I'm working from home. LA was one of the hardest hit in the pandemic, and also my colleagues in New York were also hard hit. So we shifted our events online. We did a lot of webinars. Our in-person events before were more on trade fairs and also investment fora. So what we did is we shifted this to online platforms like Zoom, where we have actually, from our experience, in some cases it's actually even better in terms of attendance, because we can get people, 100 people in one event, when before we only had maybe 50, 70 people showing up. So in some cases it worked well. In terms of the businesses here in LA, we have a support group here. We call it Support LA, Support Small Businesses LA. This is more for small businesses owned by Filipino Americans. But the sad fact is, of course, some didn't really survive the first 9 months, especially with very strict lockdown orders here in LA. I'm sorry to say that some up and coming restaurants like Mamser, Lasa, gone. But some pivoted, like Lasa, now converted to, I think, a rotisserie chicken, like a inasal type chicken, takeout only, in Chinatown, LA. So some are pivoted, some are still there fighting it out. Some are even doing good, and then doing well in terms of helping healthcare workers, Filipino American healthcare workers, giving them food, lunch boxes, providing free lunch boxes to our healthcare workers, who are really our heroes in this pandemic. So it's a mixed bag, and then I'm really glad that we have people here like Joel and even our folks here in LA who have pivoted and have survived this pandemic. But we'll be here always to support.
Yeah, that's definitely really important. I think when it comes to the community aspect of this, like you said, I think that's really where it comes down to, people really supporting their community and going out to those restaurants and going to support those businesses. Eric, I know you had mentioned that you had a few slides that you might want to share. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to perhaps share some of those slides you were mentioning earlier.
Actually, I'm trying to pull them up, but I can't seem to right now. Anyway, I just wanted to share in those slides that like what the speaker earlier in the plenary mentioned, we Filipinos are quite well represented here in the US, especially in Hawaii. I just found out almost a fourth of the population is of Filipino heritage. And yet, in the same breath, I would mention that even here in LA, I can see that Filipino food is not that mainstream, I would say. We can still do a lot. If you compare with other Southeast Asian ethnicities who are, less represented in terms of numbers, I think we are already 4 million here in the US. And yet they have, quite a better showing in terms of their food culture and in terms of the products available in the market. So that is part of our work here in the US. We would want to promote more Filipino food and then have them, in mainstream outlets, not only for Filipino supermarkets or Asian ethnic supermarkets, but even in that's lift Filipino food into the mainstream. It's not that ethnic food that some people just try and then appreciate once in a while. It's more of first off, if someone craves for Southeast Asian food or Asian food, they will think of Filipino food. So that's the work that we want to do, and that's the one we want to have, cooperate with you here.
Yeah, that's definitely a very good way of looking at the pandemic and how to support those businesses for sure. It is interesting because there are very distinct pockets of the United States that have so many Filipinos, right? It's like, you get, New York and LA and San Francisco and Chicago. There's only, a handful, two handfuls maybe of Filipino communities everywhere. But to support the community is really the most critical thing. And I think Filipinos tend to have that support your family, support your culture mindset. So I think that definitely does help, especially in this time of pandemic. Joel, I know you mentioned you also had some slides that you wanted to show. Is there are you able to pull that up to show it, or?
Sure. My icon is still cross up. Can you help me with this one? Can you try to allow me to share?
Mine, this is not like Zoom, so I don't know how to do this.
It's a little bit different.
I also, mine is also crossed out, but when I click it, you can click the share screen button. Do you have one of those that says share screen, or no?
No, not right now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how to get that to work, but I guess in the meantime, maybe I'll send a question out how to work that. But in the meantime, what was it actually on your slides? Is there something you might be able just to talk to since we can't get the screen share function to work?
Sure, we can go back on that one. Well, if I may, let me just piggyback on what the other panelists have mentioned earlier about the Filipino food movement, right? When we started Tiano, it was really our strong belief that there's so much opportunity that lies ahead in front of us. Being here over 35 years in Hawaii, I've literally experienced the industry from the bottom up. And also, when I became a business owner back in 2008, it really kind of opened my eyes the opportunity that it represents. Because although, like what the other speaker have mentioned, 25% of the population in Hawaii is consisting of Filipino, right? But I'm really excited of the remainder of that population that they will be able to experience what we can offer in the market. And that's why I'm very passionate of what Tiano is doing in the marketplace. Because strangely enough, when you go to our restaurant, Filipinos don't eat Filipino food in our restaurant. I mean, probably 5%. Okay, and it's because we Filipinos know how to cook really good food, right? But the other ethnic group, they don't really know how to do Filipino food. So that's our market share. 95% of our business is from the local and American that loves Filipino food, who have tasted uh, from the party of friends and the other family members. So I just want to encourage everybody to take a look at what we have. And what I think what we've done in the marketplace is really kind of dress up our food, because I read through some comments and write-ups about Filipino food. The flavor is there. The 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 taste, it's already there. We're known for adobo flavor. We just need to dress it up. And I've just implemented these four categories that applies really well for everybody. I call it FAT. I work in every plate. F stands for flavor, make sure the flavor is there. A stands for appearance, make sure the presentation is nice. T is for texture, make sure that it's not overcooked. And then the temperature. Then, of course, the last one is that put this all together in the right environment. We have a really great opportunity for everybody, and we're moving for growth. So I just want to add it up to everybody.
I like the fat. That's a great way to look at food from that perspective too. From this particular panel is really about starting and sustaining a food business. So I don't want to lose sight of the opportunities or a chance to talk about the entrepreneurial side of things. As an entrepreneur and myself, I know it's a lot of it has to do with innovation, looking at opportunities. Look sometimes these situations that look like doom and gloom and a lot of negativity, you can find ways to use that to find a new concept or try something different, right? So I'm wondering from all of your standpoints, what have you seen or what opportunities do you see in the current climate? And I would just love to hear your thoughts on that particular subject.
You want me to go?
Anyone?
Okay. So for us, since we pivoted into a lot more takeouts, I'd say 75% of our business are takeouts. And being we're in Hawaii, we're a big fan of bentos. So now we have created like wide array of bentos. We have Filipino bentos, we have local bentos that any customer can pre-order ahead of time, and we make it for them. A lot of parties, because of the restrictions that they're only allowed uh, to gather certain limits, like 5 people. But we actually have done a lot of drive-through events. We pre-order 100 bentos, and we just kind of drop it in their site, and a lot of people just drive through on the site while taking the food that we've offered them. So looking forward, I think in the next, despite the vaccination efforts, I think it's gonna stay here for a little longer. I'm predicting at least about a year more, just because a lot of people are still hesitant to go out and gather. So we're looking at exponential growth in there moving forward, especially upcoming graduation and onto the holiday season again. So this time a lot better than the last year, because we're now well prepared. We're gearing up for full food trucks in our operational in the next few days. So I'm looking forward to that.
Have you had to change the way that you market and the way that you process things, or what things actually had to change? Because I know all of you had mentioned about pivoting, and I think that's very important in this climate. But what kind of things specifically did you feel you had to do as a restaurant owner in this particular situation?
The number one thing that we implemented right away was to upgrade our POS system that allowed our customers and clients to pre-order ahead of time in the comfort of their handheld device. It's because before they literally had to pick up the phone and call us, or use a third-party delivery service. But those cost a lot of money for an operator like me. But when we invested a good amount of money on the upgraded POS system that allows our customer to use their handheld device or from a desktop comfort of their home, it really helped us a lot, because now they don't have to wait for that busy tone on the phone, and it's printed directly through our POS system in the chef's line, and literally when they show up in our doorstep, then they can click a button to say that they already had arrived. And that really helped big time for us, because it streamlined all the processes.
Now, Peter, from your side, I know you're from the Department of Health side, right, and food safety. How has that been impacted, or how is that sort of implemented now through this pandemic, right? Obviously, people have been pivoting, people have been going from one business model to another, but there's always a fear of maybe getting infected if you go to eat at a place, or that kind of a thing, right? How is that? How have you seen that in the current environment in Hawaii?
Yeah, that's really an interesting thing because part of our jobs in also enforcing food safety regulations, we're also tasked with enforcing COVID mask wearing and social distancing at restaurants. So we're still getting a lot of complaints, and we will take not legal action, but we have a placard system where we can close a restaurant if we can declare an imminent health hazard. So let's say an employee is not wearing a mask, we'll give them a warning first. We'll issue a written warning saying that please put your mask on at all times, and you have to have your customers now masked up also. And if you don't, on the second visit, we will close you down. 99% of the time, we never have to take that extra step. The voluntary compliance in Hawaii is terrific. Our restaurant industry has bought into food safety full on. So we really have no problem when we enforce through education. As long as we explain it to the restaurant owners why we need something done, as long as it's the health and safety of the customers, people like Joel have been super responsive. We've had so few issues with restaurants that were not doing the right thing. So even in this environment, you know, so many restaurants are going overboard, trying to really adhere. And of course, you have, you know, the 5% of the bad apples that either don't care, they don't believe it, and they're actually challenging government. They're actually challenging us on the rules to see what we're going to do about it. So kind of disappointing that we've had so much misinformation out there. And for the business owners, you know, it's the misinformation. If they buy into it, then of course their customers buy into it too, and that doesn't help the whole public health situation. Yeah. So everything is about information and communication, and getting people to understand why they have to comply by these. It's not about your personal rights, it's about taking care of others, right? So that's the reason why countries like New Zealand and Australia didn't even have the vaccine, and they have 40,000 people in a stadium now. They have 12 straight days with 0 community infections. How is that possible? Countries can do this, and yet the United States, other countries, my God, we're just killing our own people. And it's just bad information that's out there, and people have a difficult time understanding what the truth is nowadays with all this internet stuff out there. So we see that's our biggest problem, is so many quote unquote internet scientists, and people are being sold things they don't need. Restaurants are being told to buy this, buy that, disinfect it, spray this on your wall, and you'll never have COVID again. And it's kind of really sad how people take advantage of each other at this time too. So it's all about constant information, telling businesses, you know, the proper way to do things and what is really safe and what is not. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a very difficult climate to navigate for sure. How has it been in LA, Eric, out there?
Okay, yeah. I also, in answering your question, also, I'll try to attempt to maybe chime in to what Peter and Chef Joel mentioned earlier. So I think even here in LA, I mentioned earlier LASA, right? So LASA is a Filipino American, I think, restaurant, quite high end. So now in pivoting, what they did is they converted it to a restaurant they call La Cita. So, but now they're focusing more on rotisserie chicken takeout, and also pork belly lechon. Also everything takeout now. So basically, that's how they pivoted. They looked at what basically what consumers are doing now. I think what the pandemic taught us, business owners and also even government, is how to move along with the consumer behavior. So people now are, you know, eating more at home. They are also, you know, they would, of course, they're constrained by lockdown orders and also safety protocols, so they cannot eat in, even here in LA. So they have, I think just recently they opened indoor dining, but it should be in a patio or in a capacity only. So I'd like to chime in with what Chef Joel mentioned earlier about, you know, doing more, maybe being more mobile, like chasing after your clientele. Maybe food trucks is now an option if it's allowed in your to the clientele. Other things that you may want to consider are, of course, you're in the restaurant, but people now are wanting to cook their own food and wanting to prepare their own food, but they would want still the good quality food that they can get from the restaurant. So I think a good middle ground will be ready to eat food, ready to cook food, even frozen food. You have, even here in LA, you can buy from restaurants prepared food that they freeze or in some way preserve, that you can bring home and keep in your fridge. And when you're ready to eat, you can just heat up in the microwave or heat up in the stove or oven. So these are things that you may want to consider as business owners. And then chiming in with what Peter mentioned earlier, information dissemination is really key in this pandemic. It is quite ironic that the more we know, the less we actually know, right? I mean, with the amount of information out there, it's really how to distinguish which would benefit me or which would which um, um, the lines are really blurred now. So, but as business owners, we have to get our messages across, and we have all of these tools now available. We have social media. You can use even Facebook in promoting your businesses, and it's quite effective to some extent. A lot of people now are on social media since they're working from home, since they're staying more at home. So that's their window to the world now. So that is also where we can get our messages across, maybe social media. But the key there is really information dissemination and how we can get our messages and how we can advertise our businesses and reach the consumers.
Most definitely. I think that's one of the most important things. When I had joined the board of the Filipino food movement, I felt like that was really critical. It's a platform. We need to really support each other through these platforms, that we can all elevate each other's messages through something that's grounded in something that's familiar and very true to our culture. One of the things I wanted to specifically ask, because we're coming from so many different directions with all three of you as far as the different backgrounds that you have. I'm curious more from the business owner standpoint, right? From resources that are available to me, and resources that you've seen that work or that you've had access to, or that the government is able to provide, right? So I'm wondering, in each of your experiences from your particular vantage points, what are some of those resources out there, or even certain tactics or ways to approach things to help offset some of either the costs, or find ways to get some grants or government support? Or what are the other things as a small business like Joel, your restaurant, how have you been able to avail of different kinds of things to really help? So I'm curious from each of your sides, some of those aspects.
Well, for Tiano's case, we really started by our own efforts. It was funded through my other business, and thankfully we had that, because I didn't really know where to go to when I wanted to start a restaurant. Like you mentioned earlier, it took me over 20 years working for somebody else, and I made them a lot of money. and that really woke me up one day that I'm not gonna do this for the next 20 years. So fortunately for me, I've self-funded my restaurant venture through my other water purification business. But what I can say, though, however, is that I wish that as a community as a whole, we should have programs where, a program that guides aspiring entrepreneurs like me when I was like 10 years ago. And that would have been, there would have been many Joels out there in the marketplace today. And I'm not just speaking for the Filipino community, but as a community as a whole. We should have all these resources through grassroots education down to the level from graduating high school. Because for me, I came from the Philippines 35 years ago, and all I wanted to do is get a job. but 20 years after, I felt like I was better than this 9 to 5 jobs. Well, as you guys probably know, when I became a chef, that was not 9 to 5 anymore. That was 9 to 9. So that's 12 hours a day. And, so that was my reality. And if there's anything I could have changed or I could have wished for, was the mentorship. I wish that I found the right mentorship that 10 years prior to actually discovering Tianos. Then the story would probably be a little bit more different. But with that, and that's why I feel really good about giving back to the community, because it now gave me a chance to give back what I've learned from my experiences to mentor these kids, especially the underprivileged, to make sure that we're empowering them with the right information, because there's so many information floating around. There's no better information than to get it from the right source. Like if I wanted information about health and safety, I would get it from Twitter. But if I wanted information about starting a restaurant, I would probably get it from somebody like Joel, who had been there, done that. And that really, because my employer, they're good employers, but they don't really want to teach me on how to become a restaurant owner, because they want to keep me under their wings for as long as they want. So, and really, that's what I felt, that as a community and as government programs, they should have a little bit more efforts and emphasis in educating aspiring entrepreneurs to go to grassroots level to make sure that those informations are available. It could be in the small business administrations. There's some. I know that there are so many available angles that now one can go to, but we just need to educate a lot of these folks that these programs are available.
Were you able to take advantage of any kind of funding, or do you know if there's any funding that's available for things that are specific to restaurant improvements or upgrades or anything like that? I mean, I know as a small business that there are things like PPP loans right now. The government, you can get through your local banks. That's part of the government stimulus package. I know there's the EIDL loans that are also available from the government, which is also disaster relief through Small Business Administration. But I'm wondering, because I know, for example, here in New York, when I talk to my friends that own restaurants here, they tell me that because of the restrictions on indoor dining, they were forced to build outdoor dining that's covered and heated and that kind of thing. And there wasn't any money that was available for that. They told me that was just out of their own pocket, right? I'm just wondering if you guys, especially since you're all involved in this side of the world, have you seen anything like that? Is there something like that people can take advantage of?
In our case, we were able to avail the PPP loan program, the first round, but it was very limited because you actually have to provide all the information that's needed. And unfortunately, a lot of our business owner friends in the industry, and not just in this industry, but other also businesses also, is that they really have difficulty accessing it, because there's tons of information that the government wants you to provide. Just like jumping through hoops to get it. And for us, luckily, we have all our books lined up, and we're able to avail the first round of PPP loan. The other loan, the EDL, we did not approve for whatever reason. There are some limitations in there that didn't give us the definite reason why. But yes, we try to access any available loans or programs or grants that's available through with the government, but unfortunately, it's not that easy. There's so many obstacles that you need to go through.
I see. Thanks. Peter, there's a question actually that came in from one of our attendees asking how proactively did and presently DOH advise restaurant businesses on food safety issues and switching from dine-in to bentos, takeout, one-on-one, and in bulk?
You know, I'm going to apologize for that because the message is very confusing. You know, instead of it coming from the primary programs that actually regulate the restaurants, we were not involved. The bosses upstairs thought that they knew how to do this. So when they put out the guidelines, they're overlapping, they're confusing, they're hard to understand. I mean, you can ask Joel about things like physical barriers. So to this date, they have never codified it because they never included the program that actually has to go out there and talk to these restaurant owners in the early stages. So that was really, really sad. And that really set everybody back a little bit. And it caused so much confusion. All for days after we allowed reopening was telling businesses, wow, I'm sorry, but I have no clue what the health department wants of you. And I'm the health department. And that's really, really, really disappointing and very poor on our part that we approach it that way. So again, they really have to rely on the subject matter experts, the people that are in these restaurants every day. I think we've done a real good job introducing the placard program. We have pretty much a zero tolerance here for critical violations. Restaurant industry has agreed to publicly post all their inspections on a public website in near real time. So everybody's concerned with food safety here. So again, it was very disappointing that the word did not get out clear. And to this day, I think I'm confused. We had a big problem with liquor dispensers. So if you're a bar in Hawaii, you got killed. You just got wiped clean because to this day, they still have a difficult time opening. And what I was saying in March was, why are you concentrating on the liquor? It's the behavior of the people in there that causes the pandemic. It's not liquor that causes the pandemic. So if you're a bar and you pivot, you run your bar like a restaurant. You sit people down, 5 to a table, serve them their drinks, stop the pool tables, stop the games, stop the dancing and singing. You can still serve liquor, run like a restaurant, and still be open for business. Nobody listens. Nobody, to this day, nobody has told them that. And I brought it up to the mayor's office, our administration. Please think about this. Not that I have any vested interest in a liquor establishment. It's just not fair. I look at things from a very disease transmission standpoint, and why are communicable diseases being transmitted in the liquor dispenser more often than a restaurant? It's the behavior of the customers and how the bar owners choose to operate. So if you pivot and you operate your bar exactly like a restaurant, you should stay open, right? So those are the kind of things that I'm get disappointed about, but everything is communication. It's about messaging and clear intent. Yeah, what are you trying to do here? And if we're focused on disease prevention, then let's get out of all this political thing about, you know, we have strip clubs here, we have hostess bars, and no, we want to shut them down because it's bad. But we have local bars here, local businesses. So engage in that kind of thing, but yet they carry this bad name with them, and we guess we got to shut them all down because they have lap dancing, customers sitting on their laps while they're serving liquor. You don't have to do that if you're a bar and you want to stay open, right? So there's just ways to do things properly, and yeah, people are not too focused on that. Yeah. So to this day, it's hard to get politics out of it.
I would definitely think that you're correct. There's so much politics that plays into all of this that we've lost sight of common sense and understanding what it takes. And that's I hear that complaint a lot from the small business owners that I know here in restaurants, like, you know, why can't we open? It doesn't make sense. What, you know, all these different things that you just mentioned is definitely a huge issue. Eric, I wanted to get back to you too and ask your opinion regarding resources and tactics and anything you might have as far as, you know, what the other speakers had to say.
I heard like Joel, I heard that, you know, businesses here, especially small businesses, are entitled to some stimulus packages from the government, and I've heard of some Filipino American businesses go for it since they're qualified anyway. In terms of the Philippine government, we do have resources like online business to business matching service. It's called Trade Line Philippines, where you could find, you know, Filipino suppliers of any products that we can export. So businesses online, and Yeah, I think I agree with Peter. It's quite difficult for us also in government. It is something that unprecedented, and no one really expected this to happen. I can cite one restaurant here in LA. They moved from being a food truck into a stationary restaurant just before the pandemic. Close down. They have to close. And their stocks of liquor are already there. So no one really anticipated this. But I'm happy to report and to note that they're still there and they're fighting it out and they're pivoted, and I've seen them all around in social media. They're saying that they're reminding people that we're still here. These are the menu items that we have now. Everything is takeout. They've done their they scaled down. It's now down to the two founders in the kitchen. They're back to, I think they're back to where they were before, like in the food truck, where they were back to back and then doing the whole cooking, doing everything together. And I think, it's an experience. It's something that we have to go through. But I believe that, as Filipinos, it's quite strong in us being a community. And that is also something that will tide us through this pandemic. Staying staying strong and being together and then helping each other in this community.
Now, are you guys doing anything from the consulate side as far as like community sessions where you invite like local businesses or businesses in your community to talk to each other about resources that they've had and that they could use? Is that something that you guys do? And do you post that anywhere where people could learn about those things, especially the people that are maybe in California that might want to know about things related to LA? Yeah,
early on in this pandemic, what we did was we worked with the Filipino American Chamber here in LA. There's a coalition of Filipino American chambers, and we provided them with all the information that we have in terms of resources, both from the Philippine side and also what the U.S. government has been putting out there. We are also a member of the LA Area Chamber, which is the mainstream chamber. And whatever resources we have there, we also share with our local chamber, the local Phil-Am chamber. In terms of working directly with businesses, we do have also through the chamber a resource sharing. It's quite informal, mostly on Facebook, where those that have small businesses can post whatever they're doing now in through this pandemic, what their new business hours, everything related to their business there. And then we hope that we can all support each other through that platform. Now, a simple way, like for businesses, is if you have social media accounts out there, simple way is all business owners, we just like and share each other's Facebook profiles or Instagram or whatever social media you have there. And, it helps get the word across. So just a simple matter of sharing and liking and, being active on social media helps. But so basically, we've been active through social media. We've also been active through the local chamber, the local Filipino American Chamber, and through specific businesses that we are working with. One particular one is Teofilo Coffee Company. They're, a small coffee shop, but they want to focus only on Filipino coffee. And so we're helping them, get our Barako coffee, our Alamid coffee Alamid, Cavite coffee, everything that we have there in the Philippines over here. I'm expecting another shipment this Thursday, and then I'll hand deliver them to the guys at Teofilo for them to roast it and then package it small things I think help. But but being in a community and helping each other would really multiply our efforts.
Yeah, that's definitely great. My agency here in Brooklyn, we're the ones who represent Tanduay rum here in the States. So we know all about, I mean, this is for all of you guys, shameless plug, but Tanduay rum, if you guys haven't seen it, it's Filipino and #1 selling rum in the world. And it's great to have cultural representation. So, we try to use that to bring community together and try to elevate the different, Filipino community events and things like that too. So you're right. It's about sharing our culture, sharing the products that we have, and communicating with each other. So we don't have very much time left. We have about 5 minutes left. So I wanted to give each of you just an opportunity to just tell our audience here, if you have any message at all that you would like to say, to those small businesses out there, or to those entrepreneurs that are out there trying to make it, or already have a business and are trying to make it, through all of this. I would love to just hear your message.
For me, I just wish that for the aspiring entrepreneurs out there, that they really have to go to the extreme to really find that passion if they have it, because that's what's really going to propel you to succeed in any type of business that you may be thinking. Because in times like this, without that passion, it's literally a do or die type of situation. So and for those business owners like me, especially in the restaurant industry, guys, it's not as bad as what everyone has to believe. There's a lot of positive things that are happening in our industry. There's a lot of opportunities. I really believe that a pandemic like this really represent a lot of opportunities after the pandemic. So as you can see, we're gearing up. Tiano's is gearing up for that reopening stages, where we want to make sure that our main focus now is making sure that we are keeping our key players in our restaurant, so that when it reopens again, we're ready to receive the customers. And it's all really about taking care of your people. This business is all about the people that you have, and I really want to thank them. And of course, I want to thank our loyal customers out there, visitors, locals, Filipinos, Americans, all of them, for really supporting us in this very unprecedented, difficult time. And like what they said, we sometimes, you really find out who you are in times of trouble, and these were one of those few times of trouble that we've been in. So, but nevertheless, very thankful that we're still here. Looking forward to the upcoming years. I'm really looking forward to the potential growth of the Filipino food movement, not just in the United States, but throughout the world. I think we really have a great product offering out there that everybody should be able to experience in their own community.
Well, thank you, Joel. That's definitely a great sentiment. Eric, actually, before you give us your final advice here, we had a question from one of the audience asking if the Philippine consulate in Hawaii has any events or efforts to promote Filipino cuisine, promoting businesses.
Yep, I understand from Andrea, who I work closely with, that they have a bunch of things lined up in particular for Filipino food, like this summit, and then I think there's one supposedly this middle of this year. So our office, the DTI office here in LA, covers Hawaii, and also the other Southwest states here, like Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Southern California, and also Southern Nevada. So from our end, we support the Philippine consulates in Texas, here in LA, and also in Hawaii. And we stay in touch and support and help them in their activities. I would just like to chime in with what Chef Joel mentioned earlier as part of my parting message. I'm not a businessman. I'm not an entrepreneur, but I do try my best to help our Filipino American businesses here. It's really, I think I understand fully what Chef Joel says, but by going back to your passion, it's the same thing that I advise new businesses or those entrepreneurs that are trying to go into business when they ask me what type of business is what type of business should I go to in now, or in the Philippines, what do I do there? What business do I start? I always say you start with your passion, with what you want, with what you know, with what you love. If you're into cars, you may want to look into automotive sector, like starting a garage, auto parts supply, anything that is connected to your passion. And I see that in the few restaurant businesses here in LA that are still striving. I see, like what I mentioned earlier, they were a food truck before. They are now a standalone restaurant, but now they're working like a food truck, back to back, doing the cooking themselves, doing the PO, taking care of everything. So I think it boils down again to what made each one of you start your own business, and then you have to go back to that passion in order to go through this pandemic. And but I would just want to offer the services of our office. We are here to help and support Filipino American businesses. Whatever you need, like exporters from the Philippines, suppliers from the Philippines, help in your businesses here, help in getting the word out, anything. We're here to help. Our details can be shared later, and I think it will be circulated. But I will also put it in the chat box. So with that, I would like to thank the organizers of Savor Filipino Summit for having us here, and also for giving us the opportunity to speak and share what we can do and what we can offer for Filipino American businesses.
Thank you very much, Eric. And Peter, you're the last one here. What are your wonderful words of wisdom for everyone out there? Oh, you're on mute. Sorry.
From a public standpoint, this is all preventable. I mean, all of our foodborne illnesses are preventable. All this COVID is preventable. We didn't have to go through all this. All we had to do was wear a mask. That's all we had to do. And none of these businesses would have suffered. It's honestly as simple as that. And we failed to do it. So as a society, we got to look at this, and I think we got to change our ways, because everybody hurts, when we don't do it. We don't work together.
Okay.
Wear a mask, man. That's it.
Sage advice.
Have a good one.
So thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Al, for Al is also a fellow board member. Thank you so much for following this session. Really appreciate it.
Sorry, got to run, folks. Thanks. Aloha.
All right, everyone. See you in the main room. Take care. Bye.